But goals are quite a weird one. I've got another question links to this actually, which is: do you need to fix short term? Do you need short term fixed goals as well as long term ideal life goals? This might be from Ian as well. I can't remember, but it's a great question. And I think, yes, ideally, you would have short term goals and long term goals. And it would be good if the long term ones had like short term stages to get there. Because then you've got a plan, that's what a plan is. And then you're really likely to get there. But I think don't worry if you only have long term ones, because you'll find a way. I think only short term's not enough. Because only short-term goals are not going to be big enough, to go from your MReg to your PReg Fiesta. It's a short-term goal, and you've got to have some long-term goals, I think. You want the big picture sat nav, not just where am I going in the next 5 minutes. So you definitely should have some long-term. But if you can have a mix of long and short, that's great. And if the short ones add up to the long-term ones, that's also great. But I think whatever you want. And I've not been very textbook in the goals I've written. Most of my goals didn't have a plan. Most of them didn't have dates. Most of them weren't very measurable, and yet they still happened. And I think if you have a plan of how you're going to get there and you've got dates of when you're going to do it, I think it's much more likely to happen. So I think the more disciplined you are, the better with goals. But the main thing is not to have any barriers that stop you doing it. So if you're worried about any of that, just write some stuff down, just anything, just to get yourself started. Because it is amazing how when you write them down, they happen. And of course, we know why. They make you a bit more assertive and a bit more disciplined, and you make better decisions because you've set your sat nav. And, so it's obvious actually that they're going to work if you write them down. And it's obvious that nobody's achieved anything without having a goal, because you have to have the goal for it to know what you're doing. You can't build a building unless you've got a drawing of it. And so you have to do it in your mind first before you actually do it. So you don't need to have short term as well as long term is the answer to that one. I've got a question here that I can't answer, which is, I think I may need a change of career, but I don't know what. And I mean, I've had that feeling my whole life. I love what I do now. I love training, but I don't think training is the ideal job for everybody. It takes a certain type of madness to like training, but I really like it. But it took me years to find it. And for years, I was an engineer and I was thinking, I don't really like this. And then I was a manager and I was thinking, I don't really like this. And then I was a university lecturer and I thought, I really like some of this. And then I managed to keep just the teaching part and get rid of all the politics and crap. And now I really like it. But I think the thing is to keep searching, to keep thinking about it. Never just think, well, I'm stuck in this career. I remember thinking I was stuck in management. I remember thinking I can't do anything else apart from be a manager. I can't do anything else. What else can I do? And I thought about retraining as a teacher, but that would have taken 2 years with no money. And I just thought, I can't do that. But I think I've learned you must never assume that you can't do anything else, that you're trapped. And I did read somewhere that we're all going to have probably 3 different careers in our lives. And I remember thinking, well, surely not. But I kind of have had, if you count engineer, manager and trainer, and if you count lecturer, I'm on my 4th career. So I think the change of career, I think the first thing is I just would keep looking and think about every job. Would I like to do that job? What would it be like doing that job? And then don't limit yourself. If you've always secretly wanted to be, an estate agent or an astronaut or whatever, don't assume that you can't do it or whatever. Yeah, because you absolutely could. And, I don't know what the qualification is to be an estate agent, but I bet it's not too difficult. I bet you could do it. Astronaut might be getting a bit difficult now for some of us. But I think you must never assume that a job is going to be too hard. And in fact, I only ended up doing this because I worked as a university lecturer. And that only happened because my next door neighbor brought the paper round and he said, look at this advert, Chris, you should do this. You'd be perfect for this. And I said, but I'm not qualified as a teacher. And he said, you don't need to be. I don't know how he knew this fact because he was actually a carpenter, my next door neighbor. He did shop fitting, but he said, you don't need to be qualified. You can just go and be interviewed. And I was like, really? And I rang them up and I said, I've got a degree, but I'm not a qualified teacher. Can I apply? And they went, yeah. And so I was ruling myself out. And if it hadn't been for my next door neighbor, who I didn't even like, I would never have got into teaching, and I would never have had 20 years of happiness being a trainer. And we'd never be here doing this, all because of my next door neighbor, who I don't even like. He's moved now. I can say that he's moved. I don't know where he is. Probably dead. So, so I think you must never assume you can't do a job. Don't assume you can't be a university lecturer or, you know, whatever job you like.